We were talking about using SecureCloud and how this plus Mylio Drive can really improve your experience of using Mylio Photos. We will be walking through what your options are and also talk about vaults and general file protection to make sure that your content is kept safe. So thank you guys for joining us. Just let me know if there's any challenges with the audio or anything else that you guys need as we go. My voice is just a little scratchy, so you'll have to forgive that. The key thing here is we're going to be addressing the issue about offsite storage. So there's many ways to achieve offsite storage. You can install Mylio Photos on more than one device, including one that's offsite. You can take hard drives offsite periodically, or you can use a cloud so that this process is a bit more automated. And this protects you against things like hardware failures, natural disaster, and theft. I'm reminded of the natural disasters as I see some of the shots these days of folks I know on the East Coast being pretty devastated by the current storm that we've had, and people who never expected to see a storm having their house completely flooded. So, I think of my own location, and the bulk of my storage is in my downstairs basement office. And if I only kept things in one location and that location were to flood, or we were to have a major electrical damage to my house, I could potentially lose all of that, which is why I take advantage of offsite storage as a backup. So we'll be talking about Mylio Drive Plus and how to use it and why we made it and what's different about it compared to other cloud storage options. We'll also talk a little bit about how our secure cloud storage plan works and why you can add this onto your membership. We'll talk about the benefits and the cost, and just some general things about keeping your photo library safe, which you can expect, okay? So everything we're doing today is using Mylio Photos Plus. In order to sync your library, you do need to have a paid subscription to Mylio Photos Plus. If you just have regular Mylio Photos installed, then it works on one device. But in order to synchronize to multiple locations, which includes backup, you will need to have a Mylio Photos Plus plan. Okay. My name's Rich Harrington. I work on our product team. I help design features and also work with our customers and others to really make sure that the way the product works is understood and that the product continues to evolve to meet your needs. I also creatively am both a photographer and a video director, and through the years have published many different books and courses on photography. So you might have seen some of those courses on platforms like Kelby Training, or virtual or in-person conferences, as well as LinkedIn Learning and lynda.com. And I've released several books through the years, including many official ones for both Apple and Adobe. So one thing I like to just put out there is keep in mind that lots of things can get in the way of our devices being protected. You can lose your phone, a computer, or a tablet. I had a panic the other day where I had taken a tablet with me to a concert because I had to do a little bit of work in the car. And I was almost certain that I had forgotten that at the venue. I was checking, find my iPhone, the battery had gone dead. Turns out it was underneath the seat of the car. My daughter had kicked it underneath the seat on the way out, and I just had forgotten to take it out of the car. But I had that panic attack of losing things. I've driven off out of a parking lot with my cell phone on the roof of a car and watched it go flying and hit the ground and shatter. I'm sure you've all experienced some sort of device loss, often due to human error, potentially. And on that, you could lose things forever if you don't have a strategy for keeping those things safe. And what I'd like to point out, excuse me, is that you really need to make this a part of your everyday. So backing up your files needs to be something that happens automatically. Otherwise, you're going to lose things that are truly important to you. And for me, that's where Mylio Photos is a big part of my backup strategy. And we'll talk you through some of the different techniques that you can use with Mylio Photos, as well as add-on software, just to have really a well-protected photo library. Okay, so let's get out a couple things out of the way so we have common terminology. And I'm going to start with what is a backup. So effectively, you're going to back up because, quite honestly, people have problems. A third of all computers are already infected. People experience data loss all the time due to human error. Phones are lost and stolen every minute. And most people have never made a complete backup. Now, if you have Mylio Photos in a vault, then you should have a consolidated copy of all your data. And that's one of the benefits of having a vault, is that it will create an extra copy of that data in case you were to lose a device. So when we set up a vault, it allows us for some protection. And I'm going to walk you through how to do that in just a moment. Additionally, keep in mind that a backup means having everything that matters to you. So you're going to want to make sure that if that stuff is not in Mylio Photos, then you have another layer on top of that to back up other files that matter to you. And I always suggest keeping extra copies of that data around, which is why I set up multiple vaults so that I have those copies. I also use SecureCloud to keep copies of some of my data protected in the cloud offsite. One of the things that's unique about Mylio Photos and our relationship to the cloud is we give you the ability to really selectively sync to the cloud to help control your costs as well as your privacy. And quite honestly, why do you back up? Because losing things is way too commonplace, and those files matter to you. If you find yourself needing to do data recovery, it is extremely expensive and sometimes impossible to do, in the realm of thousands of dollars to recover a hard drive, if not multiples of thousands. And one accident or failure can mean the loss of everything that's important to you. So my photo library doesn't just contain my memories, it contains those of my children. It contains important photos of my mom's that have been scanned in, things that matter. So I really encourage you to go that extra mile. So what we're going to do is make sure that we have our files protected. And quite honestly, this is pretty easy to do with Mylio Photos. You're going to want to store multiple backup copies. And one of the things I like to point out is that by using local storage in adjacent to your cloud storage, you can really control costs as well as have a good backup for speed. So while we are talking about the cloud today, we're also going to talk about local backup and having more than one vault. Additionally, I encourage you that if you're using the cloud and you want to keep your costs down, then limit it to storing just your most important files, as well as your recent files that maybe haven't made their way all the way through your backup process. Okay. And with Mylio Photos in the cloud, you get the ability to selectively choose what gets backed up. That could be based on rating, keyword, folders, file types, date ranges. We give you all those controls. And also, if you're using SecureCloud, those files are encrypted, which means that only a device that you sign in and authorize to your account is going to be able to unlock those files. If the servers were to be attacked or data was to be stolen, nobody could do anything with it. Your data isn't indexed, it's protected for privacy. It cannot be scanned for advertising purposes. It's not indexed or used for AI training. It's 100% encrypted on SecureCloud to keep that data private so that only your devices can see it and read it. Okay? All right, so let's walk through this. So first up, I'm going to set up a new Mylio Photos account so you can see the process of what would happen if you were going to add Secure Drive and Mylio Drive itself. So I'm going to go through the very beginning here and just set up a new account so you can see the process from the beginning. If you have an existing Mylio account, this is quite easy to do as well. So you can add things in very simply. Remember, when you sign up for a new account, you're going to be asked to enter your code in if you have that code. And that code will allow you to then sign in that device. Anytime you go to sign in a new device, you will have to have a code for that device or click the link that was set to you. And that code is unique, can only be used one time, and it can be only used by the device that requested it. So even if somebody were to get that email, you're not able to actually enter it or get logged in. If you've purchased on our website, you would just enter your activation key in here. Otherwise, you can continue without the key and you can activate it later. So one of the things you get to do right away, of course, is add content to your Mylio Drive. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a folder. And I'm going to also add some other folders here real quickly, just to choose some existing folders that I have attached to this device. And I'll just navigate to them really quickly. As you can see here, you can select and choose what you want to connect to. And then those materials start to get added into your drive. Okay, so in this case, once we're all set here, I'm going to go ahead and just very quickly initiate this account and then show you how we can access. So let me go ahead and I'll go ahead and put this into a trial state. There we go. And that will connect and activate. And then immediately after you either trial or you activate your account, you'll be prompted to enable Mylio Drive. Now, Mylio Drive is a service that is included for free with your Mylio Photos Plus account. And it's different than SecureCloud and Mylio Drive Plus, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So it's optional if you decide to enable that. Let me go in here and I'm just going to bounce on over to the devices panel for a moment. And you can see that currently Mylio Drive is turned on. I also have an invitation here to enable a protection vault. So if you have attached a device such as an external hard drive, I'm going to take one right now and plug it in. You can then take that drive and set it to be a local vault. So ideally, a vault is going to be bigger than your current photo drive, so it's got space to hold everything, but you can then start to connect. So I'm going to click to add a protection vault, and it tells me how much space I need. And then I can choose, either use Mylio Drive Plus for the cloud vault, or I can use an external drive if I want, and just pick from an available drive, select it, and then hit continue, and it will add it. And now that is also set up. And you'll see that it gets added here into the devices panel. Okay, so what we've done so far is we've enabled regular Mylio Drive, as well as a vault for some additional protection. And that's going to allow the files to start to sync and be protected. Now, let me walk through a little bit of things here, and also in a moment, take any questions that you might have. One of the things I like to point out is making sure that we are protected against disk failure or device loss. So in order to be protected, you're going to need to have at least one vault. We recommend 2. And if you want to be really protected, then one of the benefits of SecureCloud is that you can set that up to have your most recent files protected to it. That way, when you're traveling, those are stored. Additionally, your vault can decide to have everything on it, and a vault allows you to be protected against device failure or loss. Okay, so here's a photo of my normal Mylio Drive, and you can see that I have multiple things attached and multiple devices. I'm going to switch over to my main library here in just a moment. But let's pause for a second and see if there are any questions, and we'll go ahead and take those. Lori or Angela, anything to address yet?
Nothing yet.
Okay, then we'll keep going forward. So one of the things I like about the use of Mylio Drive, which is included in your Mylio Photos Plus account, is that it's going to allow for easier syncing. So remember, Mylio Drive is the storage that we include with the Mylio Photos Plus account, and it really helps speed up your syncing. So it itself is no extra cost for regular Mylio Drive. When we add Mylio Drive Plus, which we'll talk about in a moment, then there are storage plans. But this does not cost you anything extra. And if you haven't turned it on, I would really encourage you to consider it. So as you saw there, it was prompted right after I activated my account to enable Mylio Drive. If for some reason you haven't done so, you'll also find a button for it right inside the devices panel, allowing you to get it set up. So once you do that, what happens then is that you will have all of your optimized photos synced to Mylio Drive, and those take up about 1/10 of the space of originals. This will make it a lot easier to keep your devices in sync, to always have high quality photos available. They're not the original quality, but they're still a 5x7 print. still contain raw photo data if they came from a camera original raw file. And you can edit them, you can share them, you can print, you can do whatever you need. And also your catalog and all the changes you make from any one of your devices is also automatically backed up. So this will speed up the process of keeping all your devices in sync. And it also keeps a backup copy of your catalog, which is useful in case you were to lose a device. Okay, so that is the standard Mylio Drive. We're going to go in to talk about Mylio Drive Plus and SecureCloud next, but I want to make sure that you know if you have a Mylio Photos account, that you be sure to turn that on because it's going to speed up syncing and it's going to keep everything that you have just more in sync. Now, again, once it's enabled, you'll see it there and it will by default sync all the optimized images. You can see that it's just ticking away those files right there. And you can also track the progress over in here and you can see what's happening, that those files are uploading and your general progress as it goes. Okay, I'm going to switch now to my main account, but I just want to point out again that if you ever need to, you can go ahead and add your devices here under Add. That's where you'll see Mylio Drive if you've not added it. You can also upgrade to Mylio Drive Plus. And if you need to add a vault, there's a dedicated button so you can add a vault. A vault is simply a storage location, usually an external hard drive that's large enough to contain all of your images that you've added to your Mylio Photos Plus library. Okay, let me go ahead and switch to my main account. I'm just going to switch to my default profile and restart really quick. And I'm going to switch to my real Mylio Photos library that I use with all my files. Let's just go ahead and relaunch. There we go. And now what you're going to see is a fully populated Mylio Photos library. And you can see, for example, that I've got lots of different devices. And so if I grab my Android phone, which is currently turned off, and I turn it on and launch it, it will start to sync. If I pick up my iPhone, I see that it needs 4 pictures. And I'll just launch Mylio Photos on it, and it will start to sync. And so you'll see as those devices turn on and connect, that Mylio Photos will keep them all in sync and keep them protected, which is great. Down here, you see I also have Mylio Drive Plus enabled. So in this case, I've added the SecureCloud plan. You can do that on your regular Mylio Drive account by just clicking the upgrade button and it will take you there to the site. Or if you go to start backing up originals, it will prompt you to upgrade. You'll find that as well. You can also just go under your account details. And when you log into the account page, you'll see the option to add Mylio Drive storage there. And then you can enable that and turn it on for your plan. Okay, let me go ahead and keep going now. So why do I keep files offsite? Well, quite honestly, it's because not everything is safe in one location. So as we mentioned, there could be natural disasters, there could be fires, there could be theft. All of those can happen and your primary locations of storage can become compromised. So I believe in the 3-2-1 rule, which states that you should keep at least 3 copies of all your important files, a primary and some backups, on 2 different media types, such as a hard drive and optical media, or a hard drive in the cloud. And one should be stored off-site so that you can recover it if needed. So one of the things that I do is I have a couple of layers of backup running, but I have all of my Mylio vaults consolidated, and then I also back that up manually. Things to think about again with that 3-2-1 rule, it's pretty straightforward. You need at least 3 copies of data, so your original data plus 2 vaults is a good idea. Ideally, you're going to use different types of media, and if possible, one should be kept off-site. That is going to provide you protection against your primary location being damaged, or fire, theft, etc. Okay. If you want to learn more about backup, there's a great website called DP Bestflow from the American Society of Media Photographers. I've contributed a few articles up here, but this is a great academic site that covers a lot of extra options about backup and protection. And at Mylio Photos, we're also continuing to work on additional backup options that will be rolling out through next year that you'll be able to layer onto your plans for additional levels of protection. All right, let's talk about the phones for a moment. Our phones are one of the primary places where we capture photos these days. They're also the device you are most likely to lose. Whether it's you leave it on the table at dinner or at a bar, you leave it sitting on the car as you drive off, or it's stolen out of your hotel room. There's so many ways that phones are stolen because not only are the phones themselves valuable, but they're filled with all sorts of data and information about us as an individual that can be used for nefarious purposes like identity theft. So they're a very easy target for people because of their high value. What you want to do is make sure that your phone camera roll is not just stored in the cloud. In fact, lots of people don't even have a cloud plan large enough to store their entire phone camera roll, so they actually only have their most recent pictures there, and they may not realize that their pictures aren't protected. Ideally, what you want to be able to do is ensure that your account is protected so that the data can't be stolen. That's why we have all of our things in the cloud encrypted so that only your devices that are logged in can access things. We use encryption so that only a device that you approve can read the file. Also, SecureCloud tends to be a bit faster than other cloud plans, so I find that it backs up quicker. And in order to keep costs down, you can decide to make sure that everything that you're syncing to SecureCloud also backs up to your local vaults. So remember, when you have a vault, for example, here is a local hard drive attached to one of my computers, it will pull everything down off of SecureCloud. It will protect that to a local drive. Anything that my other devices have will copy there. But here's the benefit. When you're out and about, accessing SecureCloud tends to be faster than trying to remotely access your computer. So I find that SecureCloud tends to be about 3 times faster to sync to than remotely syncing to my computers, and that's faster. Now, of course, when I'm home and on my home network, Mylio is way faster than syncing to the cloud because you're using your local network speed. But remotely, SecureCloud speed is a nice place to sync to because it's always on, and then it can trickle down to your other devices as they connect and things are needed. You can see, for example, it pulled down the file, and now that vault is in sync. Now, here's what you can do to control that. So if I select Mylio Drive and I go to my sync policies here, I'm going to set this right now to a policy. Now, there's different presets in here. Normally, if you have lots of space and your photo library is not very big, you might choose to use a vault. Otherwise, what you can consider are things like the optimize preset, and then you can build on top of that. And I'm going to show you how we can add things to it so they become protected. So, for example, I can come here under originals, and I'm going to add a sync collection. We're going to talk more about sync collections as we work here, but this is a new tool that we just added about a month ago that lets you choose how you back up. So, for example, I can say, hey, I want to back up my Android photos and my Apple photos to SecureCloud. And then I'll click done and just label that phone backup. And now everything off of my Android Photos camera roll and my Apple Photos camera roll are being synced to SecureCloud at full quality and resolution. It was that simple. I just chose those 2 folders because those folders represent my respective camera rolls that are on my devices. So remember, when you sign in on iOS or Android, it's going to add a folder for your Apple camera roll or your Android camera roll, and it's very easy to pick that. And I just picked them and added them to be backed up to SecureCloud. Now, let me keep going and walk you through this part. So remember, when you install Mylio Photos Plus, you can install it on as many devices as you want, and you can protect all those devices. So you can sign in not just on Mac and Windows, but also on Android and iOS and iPad. So this means that all those devices you have can be synced and protected. Okay, we'll just take a pause for a second to see if there's any questions to answer. Otherwise, we'll keep going.
Sharon has a question. She's asking, I have numerous genealogy files, JPEGs, PDFs, docs, XLX.
Yep.
Does it make sense to have them all being accessed with Mylio?
I have all mine in there, and if you're going to sync them off site, you can then have them encrypted. But we do support Office docs and PDF and text files. And we also support, of course, all your image files and movie files. So that works great.
We have another question.
Those folders in.
One more question in the Q&A. DF would like to, it says, isn't iCloud encrypted and doesn't Apple have backups of their iCloud storage?
So iCloud has the option for encryption. It's not on by default. You have to enable it. And so that's not on by default. Ours is. And I'm not exactly sure what you mean by backups. I mean, yes, technically speaking, iCloud uses multiple servers. So do we. So in theory, you're protected against one of their servers going down, but you're not protected if you have things in only one location. So if iCloud were to become corrupted, or if there was a data loss or a data breach, then that's a single point of failure. And it's always a good idea to have multiple backups. Okay, so I always believe in putting things in more than one basket because they're my most important things. They're my memories for my entire life, as well as my children's and my parents. Okay, so that points out here that you have that ability for an unlimited number of devices. So while I do have some basic iCloud plans, and I have 2 teenagers, well, actually one's a 20-year-old now, and a teenager and a wife and a mom who are all on my family plan for Apple, I can tell you that iCloud storage very quickly adds up. And I can't even put all of my things into that plan because Apple has a cap. Now, 12 terabytes may seem like a lot of data, but start spreading that across all your family members, and very quickly you can run out of space. So what's nice here is you can add as many devices as you want with your Mylio Photos Plus plan. So as you can see in my Mylio Photos Plus account, I have many devices added: laptops, desktop computers, multiple phones, etc. And when those devices are powered on, Mylio Photos runs. For our desktop and laptop computers, the application can run in the background. For mobile phones and devices like that, there's a requirement for Android and iOS that you have the Mylio app running in the foreground, but you can simply plug your device in and let it sync. And after that first sync, it's very quick because you're just going to be uploading a few files at a time, and you shouldn't need to be protecting everything all at once. Okay. So you can have as many devices added as you want at that point. Now, with Mylio Drive and SecureCloud, if you enable our cloud protection plan, we are using Backblaze servers. Backblaze is a very respected company in this space. You can look them up, but they're a very secure company. And we decided to partner and use their storage as the backbone for our service. Additionally, when you upload those files, we encrypt them by default, and only your devices can decrypt them. And that means that a device has to be approved by you in order to be able to access the files or turn the data back into something that's viewable. Now, that's only when you store on a cloud device. Everything you store on a local device that stays under your control is unencrypted. So if you have a Vault local as a backup drive, that can be plugged into any other computer, even without Mylio Photos running, and you can still access all of that. So I like to have a mixture of both types of backup. Another thing that's quite nice is that ability for precision syncing. This gives you the ability to decide exactly what's going to get stored, and we'll talk about that with our sync collections here in just a moment. Plus, as you do backup, not only does Mylio put the files up, it validates the data as it goes up. It also ensures that everything, including all the metadata, continues to be accessible. Remember, Mylio Photos, a couple of you asked about genealogy, actually uses the metadata standards set by the Family Metadata History Working Group, and we keep our metadata in a format that is compatible with all the major genealogy sites and also approved for future standards of accessibility. Okay. Additionally, here with SecureCloud, that gives you the ability for the offsite protection. And because you can use sync collections, you don't have to feel like you're going to store everything in SecureCloud. So this way you can decide to put your most important files there, for example. So let me go on in here, and I'm going to show you how I can back up my most important files. So I can click to add a sync collection. And what I'm going to do is say, hey, I'd like to go by rating. I'd like my 4-star and 5-star photos and videos backed up. If I just want 4 and 5-star photos, I could say 4 and 5. And from the file type, I'll say photos. And now what I can do is back up my best photos. Additionally, maybe I want to back up videos, but videos take up a lot more space. So I can add a collection here, and I'll say, let's just do my 5-star videos. And so again, I can go to by file type and say videos and click done. And I'll call that best videos. And you'll see that as you build this out, not only can you see what's happening, but it's right here. At any time, you can twirl it down and see the recipe. You can click the view button and it will load it so you can view and search and look at that library. And that makes it really easy to see it, right? You can go in and actually work. You can click edit if you want to really see what's there and modify. And so you can keep modifying your recipe. I would also add a sync collection and say, hey, I want to back up the most recent files. This way I've protected. So I'll say back up the last 90 days because maybe I haven't organized those yet. And I want to make sure, for example, the pictures I saw this morning walking back from my physical therapy appointment. I saw these beautiful berries in the rain. I caught my eye. The other night, we got to see Suzanne Vega at a concert. That was the one where I thought I lost my iPad. We went with my son to a garden. Saw another concert. We got to see Weezer. So it's been a good week or a good month for music. In any case, I can go ahead and back those up because I haven't yet rated those images or organized them. And I'll call that recent stuff. And now that is also going to be on SecureCloud. And not only can you do that by ratings, file types, time, but you can go in and choose specific folders, specific file types, or remember, Mylio Photos lets you categorize things either on import or afterwards you can go folder by folder or even file by file and assign categories. We give you a list of default ones as well as ones that you can easily modify or add your own. But this is an easy way to categorize things like work, family, personal, etc., which then lets you just sort of grossly and quickly organize them. And that's a great way to control syncing as well. So as you see here, you could sync using stars, flags, or color labels, keywords, folders, date ranges, even like, by specific years or seasons, file types, and categories. So we give you really granular controls so that you can go in and totally decide what is protected. There we go. There we go. And let me just save that. And if you change your mind, you can remove it, etc. And then just click Apply Changes, and those changes will start to sync your Mylio Drive Plus with the files that you have chosen. So that's our concept of sync collections, and we think that's quite powerful. Additionally, if you've made any sort of quick collections before, you'll also find those available here under the preset list. And so you might find ones that you've created in the past or some recipes here just to jumpstart you that you can pick from. Okay, so that works quite nicely. And again, really gives you that control to ensure that you know what is being synced up there to the cloud. Or if you're browsing folder by folder, you can also easily select an image. Like for example, I could say, oh, these scans, I want to make sure those are protected. I can click on it and I can also just come right over and I'll come back to my devices panel here and I'll say, oh, I forgot to add that folder. I want to make sure that all my scan photos are protected. So I'll just scroll down and say scans. And now I've got the birth certificates, the photos of my great grandmother, all sorts of pictures. cards, wedding photos, you name it, right? These are a lot of great important memories here from multiple generations. And so I'll click it and I'll say family photos. There we go. And then if you need to, once that's all there, you can always save your own presets here in case you want to sync that collection to a second drive or device. So you can easily, for example, I have a travel drive here that's an SSD. I also take that with me as a local backup so I can plug that into my laptop and such when I'm traveling in case I don't have good internet connection. And it'll create a local backup as well. So I just travel with a small portable SSD and I set that up to have similar rules like my Mylio Drive. And then when I plug it in, not only do I back up to the cloud, but I also immediately back up to that SSD. And I can plug that into an iPad, an iPhone, a Mac, or a Windows computer. We're working on getting Android support in the future. There's a few things Android has to add to their operating system to support that for us, but that's work in progress. And I hope that in the future, we'll be able to support that platform as well. And that gives you an extra level of backup so your files can be protected. Okay, let's keep going then. So if you decide that you do want to use Mylio Drive with the SecureCloud option for Mylio Drive Plus, we offer plans. A 2 terabyte plan is $11.98 a month. A 5 terabyte plan is $29.95 a month. So that's at just under $6 a month per terabyte. Remember, you can then add whatever amounts you want. So for example, OneDrive charges $10 a terabyte, and they have a 2 terabyte cap. So you can only back up 2 terabytes there. We're in line with what Google and Apple charges. They're just a little bit less, but we feel that we offer some unique benefits, including the fact that we really let you decide what you sync, so you don't have to put everything in the cloud. And we're actually less expensive than Adobe as well. So that gives you some additional options. We think we're pretty competitively priced. And you can continue to add storage as needed if you decide you need to expand your plan. Okay. Another thing that's nice is that Mylio Drive running on Backblaze is one of the fastest cloud plans out there. So if you do any research, you'll find that Backblaze is rated as one of the fastest ways to back up your pictures to the cloud. And that's because they don't throttle. Most other consumer cloud solutions price themselves and they offer throttling, which means that as soon as you start to sync more than a few files, they clamp your speed. Mylio Drive Plus and SecureCloud is based on the Backblaze servers, and they don't throttle. So you'll see that typically speeds are anywhere from 2 to 4 times faster than most other cloud providers for most connections. So that's a great way just to get your files quicker, as well as to get things backed up more quickly. Okay. All right. We'll pause for a second for any questions, and then we'll just kind of wrap through the process again, and I'll show you how you can enable it if you need to turn on Mylio Drive, as well as how to access SecureCloud if you want to try it out. So Angela or Lori, any questions?
Yeah, we've got several in the Q&A. So first one from Bruce. Any plans for version backups? What happens if I accidentally delete a folder of pictures or they are messed up by ransomware? I need to back up in time, not just have offsite backup equally messed up.
Yep. So that's something we are working on. And I would encourage you to keep an eye on it into the new year. So we are intending to have a local option where you can keep things protected. In the short term, what I do is something that you can all do as well, is I have one of my vaults locally cloned using cloning software to another drive. And I tell that clone of the vault to keep any differences so it tracks changes. That way, if I erase something, it keeps that on that other drive. So there's a lot of cloning software you can use. I use Carbon Copy Cloner, but there's all sorts of ones out there. I might actually really quickly have a slide with some of those. Let me see if I can find it. I do not, but you can definitely clone one of your local vaults, and that will support some concept of versioning. So as there's destructive changes, but that is something we are actively working on, hopefully for next year. So we'll keep you updated on that as well. Okay?
Excellent.
Yep.
Next question from Mike. How does Mylio SecureCloud compare to using other full backup solutions such as Dropbox Backup or others that can restore my drive that is also a vault? I know Dropbox isn't good for syncing photos with Mylio Plus. I'm talking specifically about Dropbox backup.
Sure. So there's different options there for things like that. So for example, Backblaze has a $7 machine solution. I think you're referencing the same sort of thing of a Dropbox backup. Those solutions are not really designed to keep going as you're working, deal with metadata changes and everything else. But, most people are going to have a mixture of things. What I find is that, as you can see here with the sync collections, I really like having granular control over my backups. I don't want everything backed up to the cloud because it gets pretty expensive. But the ability to go in and choose specifically what gets backed up is nice. And as I work and I rate and I do things, all of those changes you do as you organize your library can trigger and keep that in state. And it just runs automatically in the background. The challenge with some of those Backblaze solutions is that they're good for computers and such, as well as Dropbox, but they're not so great for protecting things like the photos and things you're taking on your phone. So those just really aren't optimized for that. But ultimately, for most people, I would encourage you to have multiple types of backup. And so, add SecureCloud to your mix, and then consider if there's another type that you sit on top of that. Like I said, I use the Backblaze $7 a month disaster recovery option as well. But if I were to do a restore from that, it would take me almost a month and a half to pull everything back down off of that, because those really cheap backup solutions are extremely throttled, and they're not the type of thing that goes very quickly. Whereas Mylio Drive and SecureCloud are using the enterprise class cloud storage, which is designed to sync very quickly, as opposed to things like the Backblaze backup and Dropbox backup, which is quite slow. The other day, I went to put a folder of, gosh, it wasn't even that big. It was probably 20 gigabytes. And Backblaze was going to take almost 12 hours to put that up there. That's half a memory card. That type of speed is not really viable if you're traveling or on vacation and you want to back things up. So that's really what's nice, is that SecureCloud is going to keep up with your life, so that as you're taking pictures and you're traveling, those pictures are going to stay safe. So I really think that that's important, and that's why you have to have a mixture. Those other solutions are great for a long term or sort of set it and forget it backup, but not active storage that you're working with.
All right, next question from Laura. I'm so worried about losing my photos, and I keep my MacBook external hard drive and my 2 external hard drives inside a dry bag inside a fire safe. Can this damage the drives?
I don't know if you need to go that far. I mean, you want to keep drives at a good temperature, so it really depends on the ventilation you have in the safe and if you let the devices cool down before you store them. But I wouldn't be putting them in a dry bag hot, and I wouldn't put them in a safe hot. You can also, use Mylio Photos to sync a vault and keep that in a fire safe. That's something that I do as well. I just unplug a vault periodically and tuck it into a fire safe at home. Some people use a security, might use a safety deposit box offsite or take one to their job periodically. So you can do that. You can also log in a remote computer if you have access to a second location or a family member's house, and set up a vault for protection that way. Remember too, we talked briefly about encryption. The reason why is that, remember, you can decide what goes there, but I just like to point out that unencrypted cloud storage is pretty risky. And that's because of optical character recognition, as well as all the embedded metadata that we have in our images. I encounter people all the time who say silly things like, Facebook was listening to me. It's not that it's listening to you, it's that it looks at your pictures and what's on your camera roll and on your maps and where you've been. So a lot of times, as social networks or companies who make their money by selling us ads or selling our information to advertisers, one second as I call. They make their money by getting us to use free or affordable storage, and then they index all of our content and use that to sell information about you and your family, so that you can be targeted for ads and whatnot. I remember, for example, being at South by Southwest and taking a picture of a concert photo I liked. And then for the next week on Facebook, all I saw were ads for tickets for that performer as well as his new album. That's because computers can read. And so what happens is that OCR can find that. So if I were to go into my library and just do a quick search here, I'll just show you that, things can be read. So here, Wizard, it found a scan program from the Wizard of Oz that I scanned in looking up information about kids' names. But if I type in the word password, for example, it read it, right? Here was a photo right there on the side of a box. Here, it's reading it on the sign here. Even though the word's partially cut off, it still was able to read it. It's reading it on the picture of the back of my router that I took when I was trying to type that in. It can be reading signs in your office. This is a bulletin board at my son's high school, and it was reading that over someone's shoulder, reading it off your devices, right? So what I'll tell you is that computers have OCR, and OCR can read just about anything. So you take pictures of receipts, you've got forms, you've got medical paperwork. If you're putting that stuff in the cloud, I would caution you that if you're putting it up there in an unencrypted state, then that information can get indexed and read by other people. And that was one of the main reasons that I like the fact that what I put into Mylio Photos is kept safe. So I absolutely have important documents in here. I have my travel documents, I have my ebooks, I have all my scans of my family's history. And all of that, when stored offsite, is stored in an encrypted format that only my devices can read. And that's one of our key benefits of SecureCloud is that encryption, that only devices that you approve signed into your account is able to see it. Okay. All right. Other questions, Angela?
Yeah, we've got quite a few. So Sharon says, should I have my laptop be a vault? I keep all of my original files on my laptop. Does having a vault mean that there are additional copies, i.e. a backup, in addition to my original files on my laptop, which will be taking up more space?
So it's fine to use a laptop as a vault if you have enough space, but that's not a second copy, so anything that was on your laptop doesn't get backed up again. And it's not a backup if it's a second copy on your same device. So you really should be adding an external drive and consider adding Mylio Drive. So you can either, if you've got enough space, back it all up offsite, or you can go ahead and back up to an external hard drive or an SSD. So it really just depends on the size of your photo library, the size of your laptop. I splurged. I have a 4 terabyte laptop, but my photo library is 13 terabytes. So that's not fitting on any laptop anytime soon, which is why I'm using external hard drives. I've got a really good, fast external hard drive, and I have some cheaper ones from Seagate that are, highly affordable that I can just use as backup copies. And you just plug it in and add it as a vault, and then Mylio Photos will sync to that extra location.
All right, next question. David says, what happens to duplicates?
So there's a dependency here on duplicates on the same device or duplicates across multiple devices. So Mylio Photos naturally deduplicates when you import. It's an option you can turn on. We have a dedupe tool that will scan for true duplicates, and that will look across your drives. So here it found 2 copies of the same picture. When you delete that, it'll merge it and then put all your things in sync, but it's not a duplicate when you have another device with a copy of all your data. That's another device. It's only a duplicate when you have multiple instances in the same library on the same device. And Mylio has dedupe tools and declutter tools to help clean that up, as well as it will dedupe on import, which is an option you can choose, and you can run dedupe after the fact to clean things up.
So next question is from Robert, and I'm guessing this one is probably a little bit bigger of a question than we can answer here, but he says, can you explain your use of NAS drive?
It's really not part of today's topic. You can attach a NAS and use it as a S3 server if you want to set it up. It's not for the meek of heart. It's covered in our product manual, but that's really beyond the scope of today. I do have one here, but there's step-by-step instructions on how to set it up. And you work with Docker and you can create a container and then set it up as an S3 destination. I find that my NAS running on site is still slower than SecureCloud, but it is something that those of you who have a NAS that you can do if you decide to. And then your other devices can remotely access that as well.
Excellent. Christian asks, any option to keep my data in European data centers?
So Mylio SecureCloud, one of the servers is in Europe. So if you are in Europe, when you set it up, it does choose a European data center. So the answer is yes. If you're US, then it's going to choose either East Coast or West Coast based on your location. But it should set that up correctly, and that will give you that extra speed so that it's not going across the Atlantic. So yes, we did actually set up a European data center, and Backblaze has one.
All right, next question from DF. I heard that SSD drives degrade if they're not kept on, e.g. attached to your computer. Is that true? I keep my backup drives disconnected so that an electrical hit to my computer will not knock them out.
All hard drives degrade if they're not plugged in. It has nothing to do with SSDs. So SSDs can have rot, and it's a different type of degradation, but hard drives are electromagnetic devices with lubricant. Just like tires, you leave tires sitting in the corner, they will also rot. They're designed to be used and spun up. And if they don't have a charge, then they lose their charge and you'll have data loss over time. So hard drives sitting on a shelf, not plugged in of any type, will eventually fail, whether they're SSDs or not. And so I do suggest plugging your drives in periodically and spinning them up. Otherwise, you're just asking for trouble. SSDs are a little bit more shelf stable, but if you truly need shelf stable storage, then I would suggest looking at LTO or linear tape, which is a relatively expensive option, but it is something that I also use for long-term backup. And it's what financial institutions and businesses use because it has a 40 to 50-year shelf life.
All right, next question from Mike. As part of today's great content and community about SecureCloud, do you have any one-time discounts on signing up?
I don't know. I just make products. But if the team has any codes to share, go ahead. I think we did have one before for first month discount. If not, we'll go ahead and put that in the community later, but I'm sure that's something we can share with you. Angela,
I've got
if
it.
you have it handy, my brain
Lori's
is just
got
a
it.
little foggy.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right, we'll go ahead and share that in the
I just make
chat.
products.
Next question is from Linda. How can you save original large files rather than optimize? And I'm assuming she means to Mylio Drive Plus.
Yeah, so on all of our devices, you have an optimize tab and an originals tab. So if you have Mylio Drive Plus, you just go into originals and set the rules there. And then that's what's being backed up for your original files. And you just choose what you want protected.
Perfect. Larry asks, I use Google Drive as a vault, but I can't see anything I've saved. Why?
So that's because vaults are not designed to be readable when they're put into the cloud. So it will not be the sort of thing that's meant to be gone in and then browsed. It's not like a local hard drive. Because of the way cloud structure is set up, we write that more into a blob type thing, particularly if you've encrypted the data as well. But it's not recommended that you think of those as like a repeat of your folder structure. So that's just the way we choose to work with cloud drives. And I would suggest that you don't go manually poking around in those. Rather, you sign in a device and then use Mylio Photos to sync off what you need.
Samuel says, I've been using Backblaze for several years, a great service. I've been using Mylio for 6 months. I have a vault on an external HDD. This vault and the original folders of my photos are backed up by Backblaze. What is different with this setup regarding your solution? What is the USP to your service? What will I gain?
So Backblaze is a great service. That's why we built on it. The benefit you have with using it through one place here is that you have a single point of support. Additionally, we have some extra things in the works that I don't want to go into now, but we will have some additional file sharing options next year that will require you to have a secure cloud plan. In order for us to do some of the advanced things we want, we really need you to have everything in a place that Mylio Photos is managing. And so that's the secure cloud. But if you already have a cloud vault that you're happy with and it's working for you, you don't need to make a change. But for a lot of folks to have everything with one point of support and everything all synced together is really the benefit. Next year, we'll have additional benefits that are tied to secure cloud as well around additional ways of sharing high quality files with others.
All right, next question from DF. If you really need a big hard drive, 4 terabyte plus for your vault, is it okay to use a cheaper HDD rather than SSD? Or are the HDDs more prone to fail in addition to being slower?
all drives fail. Nothing's more prone, SSD or HDD. SSDs are easier to be portable. They're more designed to be thrown in a bag than a hard drive is. But if you're leaving it connected to a desktop computer, then spinning disks are far more affordable. So it's just a matter of what you need. So I keep SSDs in my bag that I take with me. I use traditional hard drives on my desk.
And last question we have for the moment is from Anna. What about Asian data centers? Can you choose specifically not to use US servers?
We only backplace that we've used is only going to be to US or European. We don't give you the ability to choose a server beyond that. So that's what we support. If you go poking around, I'm sure you can find other things out there that offer it. We do support any S3 provider if you decide you want to bring your own storage. So if you have unique requirements, you can connect under add device, any S3 provider that you want, but you'll have to go through and set that up. And so you can click that and then add that in. You're limited to one S3 device, or you can add Google or OneDrive, but Google or OneDrive doesn't let you choose your data center. But if you're getting into that level where you want to be able to specifically geo-pick your data center, then feel free to shop around and connect it via S3.
All right, that's all we have for right now.
I'd just like to point out, guys, if you do have questions, you can go under the right-hand corner and open up the Learn panel. There's all sorts of information in there. If you're new to Mylio Photos, I would suggest you take a look at our Ready, Set, Go events and sign up. Also, you'll find the ability to chat and interact with the team. If you have questions on SecureCloud, you can ask them there. You'll also find useful articles available, so you can dig in, search, find information about how to get everything hooked up. And I'd encourage you to check that out. So thank you guys for coming today. And remember, you learned about using sync collections to choose exactly what's protected, and also Mylio Drive and Mylio Drive Plus. So Mylio Drive is included with your Mylio Photos plan, and that will hold optimized images. If you upgrade with SecureCloud, then you can store originals on there, and that's photos, videos, and documents. And you can sign up for a 2 terabyte or a 5 terabyte block, and then control what goes there using your sync collections. All right, thank you guys so much for coming out, and hope that it helps you keep your files safe and protected. And remember, you can sign in as many devices as you need. So once you've added that as a storage location, you can have multiple family members' devices signed in and share that offsite protection storage across all of them from your one account. Thanks, guys.